Hello everyone, welcome back to PM Academy. Today's topic is India-Israel relation. Dear students, this topic is highly helpful for civil services conducted by UPSC, also public service commissions conducted by the different states. So in this case, dear students, why this topic is important? Because our diplomatic relation with Israel in the month of Jan, it completed 30 years. That's why, so our relation with Israel is very fine, very nice, and we are very cooperative in all the respects, both the countries. So that's why actually I am delivering the topic from the civil service point of view. Now, dear students, I am taking you step by step of India-Israel relation. Point 1. On January 30th, 2022, India and Israel marked 30 years of full diplomatic relation. Means Israel was created in 1948, 14th May. But our the diplomatic relation started particularly in the 1992. So on January 30th, 2022, we completed 30 years of the diplomatic relation. Now, dear students, you will be surprised that Israel opened its embassy in Delhi on the February 1, 1992, and also India opened its embassy in the Tel Aviv on the 5th May 1992. So, in this way, the embassy was created, but Israel was created in the 1948, 14th May, and immediately what happens? Immediately after the 2 years, India recognized to the Israel in the 1950, and also India also opened, that means Israel opened its agency in Mumbai, that is the immigration office in the Mumbai, that was converted into a trade center and subsequently in the consulate. Now imagine that in the 1950 after recognition, so immediately the Israel opened its immigration office in Bombay. Now it is working, then it is converted into a trade center, now it is officially working as a consulate. Now dear students, you will be surprised that actually why we are very close to Israelis. Because if you see Indian Jews in Israel or Indian immigration, you will be surprised. Around 85,000 Jews of Indian origin you will see in the Israel. The main waves of immigration, it was in the 1950 and 1960, and majority from the Maharashtra. And the Jews who migrated or who immigrated from the Maharashtra to Israel, they are known as the Bini Israelis, and smaller numbers from Kerala, they are known as Cochin Jews, or from the Kolkata, also smaller numbers, that they are the known as the Baghdadi Jews. Now some northeastern states Jews, they are known as Bnei Menashe, they have also immigrated to the Israel. In this way, you will find 85,000 Jews of Indian origin in the Israel. So dear students, and what I want to tell you, the diplomatic relation with Israel is not a new one, though it is a 30 years old, but the relations with Israel continued since the Israel was created. And also, you will see that actually, dear students, our relations, that means though the India got independence in 1947 and our constitution came into being in the 1950, but 1950 to 2000, there was no visit of the Prime Minister or high level delegations visit. Means actual at the level of ministers, there was no visit from the Indian side to the Israel. But what happened? The first high level Indian visit to Israel was during NDA 1 in the 2000. L.K. Advani, Mr. L.K. Advani as the Deputy Prime Minister visited Israel in the 2000, and the same year also Mr. Jaswant Sinha, who was Foreign Minister, he also visited the Israel. and in the 2000 a joint anti-terror commission was set up between Israel and India. And our diplomatic relations between the two countries went, that means a step ahead, went the step ahead. In the 2003, when the Israel Prime Minister Ariel Sharon visited India. But dear students, our real relation, diplomatic relations between India and Israel took a new turn in the 2017 when our Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi visited Israel. And when he visited Israel, so it took a new turn because he was India's first Prime Minister. He was that means first Indian Prime Minister to visit Israel after a long gap. Now imagine that 1950, our constitution came into being, and 1950 to 1970, our Prime Minister never visited. First Prime Minister to visit the Israel was the Mr. Narendra Modi. And when he visited, the new type of the relation, diplomatic relations, India with the Israel took a new turn. And also immediately what happens actual, India immediately since 1902, only that defense and agriculture were main pillars of the bilateral trade. And due to the PM Mr. Narendra Modi's visit or our Prime Minister's visit, 7 new agreements or the MOUs were signed with Israel in the field of research and development, innovation, water, agriculture, and the space technology or the space science. And dear students, the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, visited in the 2018. And when they visited the 2018, 4 new agreements on cyber security, oil and gas explorations or cooperation, film co-productions, and air transport. In this way, the 4 new agreements or MOUs were signed with the Israelis. Now, I am taking to the business relations. In 1992, trade with Israel only $200 million. Now, if you see, particularly I am giving you the data before COVID, that means before pandemic, that is the 2018-19, it was $5.65 billion. Means actually in the 1992, it was only 200 million, and in 2018-19, it was $5.65 billion. Primary trade with the Israel in the field of the diamond, 40% diamond requirements of the Israel are given by India. India is Israel's third largest trade partner in Asia and 7th in the globe. Now the bilateral trade between India and Israel, it has been diversified into the 7 areas, mainly pharma, agriculture, IT and telecom, then homeland security. In this way, 7 new areas has been covered up in the bilateral relation between India and Israel. And generally, we export to Israel precious metals, stones, chemical products, textiles, textile garments, and we also import at the same time the precious stones, metals, chemicals, mineral products, base metals, machinery and transport equipment, and potash is the major export item of Israel to India. And the software companies like the TCS, Infosys, Wipro, Tech Mahindra, they are also expanding their base in the Israelis. So in this way, the relation with Israel is slowly expanding in the bigger ways, and India's investment in the Israel in the 2017 and 2017 to 2020, that means 2017 to 2020 or 2020, around $122.4 million. That is the investment, India's investment in the Israel. And also 300 investment companies from the Israel, they have invested in the high-tech domains and the agriculture. And if you see the tourism parts also, India and Israel, you will be surprised that in Israel, youths are very much attracted to the Indian tourist sectors. And around, if I give you the figure in the 2018, before pandemic, so 50,000 Israelis visited India as a tourist, and in the same year also 70,000 Indians also visited the Israel. And also, you will be know that actually our the relation between India and Israel has improving in the various ways or the diversified in the various ways through our the embassies. Our embassy in the Israel conduct various programs and felicitate the Indian Jews in there. And one program was conducted 5-6 years before in the Ramla, and where Indian embassy felicitated Indian Jews. So in this way, and also another aspect is there, around 14,000 Indian citizens you will find in the Israel. They are in the they are working in the different fields, and out of 14,000, 13,000 are working as, you can say, the caretakers to the elderly Israel parents, or for the Israeli elders, around 13,000, and the rest of the figures you will find in the field of diamond traders or IT professionals or the students. Dear students, and if I want to give you this figure, you will be surprised how are the relation India with Israel has expanded since Narendra Modi visit to the Israel in the 2017. So now, though it is a small country, but our the relation in the context of the Asia is very nice, because so far the security point of view, Israel is our the main diplomatic relations in the Asia continent after the Japan. Many very trustworthy relations India and Israel, and Israel also is a very trustworthy friend of India, and India is also very trustworthy to the Israelis. In this way, the India's diplomatic relations with the Israel is that means is improving day by day. This is for today, dear students. Before concluding my lecture, I request you to subscribe if you are the first viewers, and like my channel or the like my lecture. This is for today. Thank you. Thank you very much, dear students.